Diablo 4, bad. Who would have expected? I know.
Diablo 4 is at a critical point in its development. There is no secret that since the launch of the game in June, Diablo 4 has had a roller coaster of a reception. In fact, I think it looks something like this.
A roller coaster? Really? I would say that Diablo's reception has been more like complete downward spiral. Not even spiral, it's just a downward line. And it almost has absolutely no bumps. Which is, by the way, great if you like sledding.
The game originally came out to reception that was fairly high until it dawned upon everyone, myself included, that there is core fundamental parts of the game that are not fully realized.
I would say that the more correct term is that there's just a lot of the core fundamental game missing, not realized. It's just not there in general.
Instance, itemization would be one of these. We also had a lack of an in-game loop.
I would say that itemization in general is just not there in general. That would be more accurate. And the end game is also not there in general, which would be more accurate.
Was very exciting. So the reception started to go downhill until it hit a point right here where they decided to, in pre-season 1, nerf everyone's power. That was very poorly received. This made...
My favorite part about this, the Diablo 4 storyline currently is, well, not storyline, but timeline, is the fact that the developers, they saw things that people liked, and they nerfed it. They didn't look at things that people liked and said, wow, how can we make everything else like this that people like? They decided to do the classic I'm a bad developer play and just destroy things that people like because misery loves company.
Players feel not only like there's a lack of things to do, but when they logged into their completed characters, they felt even worse than they did the day before. This plummeted the reception until Season 1 was launched, and people originally had something to do. There was an apology going with it, saying that...
You know what's my favorite part, honestly, about Diablo 4 at this point? It's the fact that every season's launch, we get to understand that, wait a minute, this is still not rock bottom. We can go deeper. With every season, our hopes and dreams have just been shattered even more. The game comes out level 60. Expectations at rock bottom. This is shit. Season 1 comes out. The savior, the grace, the everything. Rock bottom again, and we didn't know that even existed. Season 2, let's go, bit. Rock bottom again. Season 3, let's rock bottom. Man, Diablo's really great at proving that the term rock bottom can always get worse. It's true what they say. It can't get better, but it always can get worse. It's your worst day yet.
Nerfs, don't worry, we're not going to do these major nerfs again. They apologize for it. People seem to accept that apology, and then people once again realize that Season 1 is just Malignant Tunnels, a few legendary powers, and the reception started going downhill again. Now, we did have Diablo 4, in my opinion's biggest W so far has been Season 2. That is what this is right here, where they had a good season. Not only did they add into Season 2 things to do, so we had like the Blood Tide, which was a good leveling experience, actually brought players together in a Blood Tide, had decent loot associated with the Blood Tide, but you also had powers that came, like a seasonal mechanic, which the vampire powers were very well received. You got sort of that power fantasy back that we had lost with the pre-season nerfs here. So people...
Yeah, arguably, yeah. Season 2 was the best overworld activities, true.
Started to feel strong again. And on top of it, they added new bosses into the game. You had Uber Durio, which was fun to farm because now Ubers are an option. But then people realized, wait a minute, Uber Durio actually isn't fun to farm. The in-game loop here is just farming materials and things like Hell Tides, which was another poor reception in terms of, okay, you get to the in-game, and now the in-game loop is farming materials to be gate-kept by those materials in order to do the boss. So we had an initial spike of, this is fun, and then the in-game loop started to get boring again as people got pigeonholed into just farming. And then we had the release of Season 3, which was probably...
Well, actually, The reason why Season 2 was technically the best that we have so far is, in my opinion, simple. Because people did not play the season for a long time. Because you need to understand, around Season 1, people completely gave up on dungeons. Dungeons were so boring and so bad that no one just played them. We completely gave up. And Season 2 gave us an overworld. But the overworld is not the place where you can get your best loot the easiest way, and it doesn't have meaningful progression. So people enjoyed the overworld a little bit, but considering dungeons were so bad, and Blizzard keeps ignoring dungeons because they're a masterpiece of design and shit, idiots. And, well, when it was time to go into dungeons, people just went in the dungeon one time and said, yeah, I'm just not gonna play this game. And that's it. That's it. Season 2 was the most well received because people completely gave up on dungeons and the overworld was at least a little bit interesting. So, you know, that's it. I think Season 2 was also the fastest when people abandoned it. I played a couple of days in Season 1. I played a week in Season 2. But the moment the overworld got boring and I was like, okay, I should go into a dungeon, it's like I never logged in again. Okay, that's it.
Probably the most poor reception of any update we had seen in Diablo 4 to this point, and that was by the same team that had made Season 1. They actually have teams that leapfrog each other, so Season 1 makes 1, 3...
And they have one idiot named Rog Ferguson who's overseeing all of them like a complete moron.
5, etc.
Fire all of them.
And the team that made Season 2 is making 4, 6, 8, etc. So Season 3 had some poor reception, and they realized that they needed to change things based upon the feedback. They added some changes to the patch in terms of rewards and the mechanics of the vaults, and they changed the pet up a little bit. This seemed to be better, well received, and then Gauntlet at least gave you something to do and sort of flatlined it. Now you're going to look...
You know what's the funniest part? Why I think Season 4 will be absolutely a disaster? It's because dungeons are bad. But vaults accidentally are actually pretty good. They're a straight line. They're spacious. You don't feel like you're crammed in a one pixel area where you can move. And it has a decent monster density. And get this, for some reason, monsters in vaults are not crammed on one tile. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine going and playing a Helltide where all the monsters are not on one tile and it's stupid. Imagine that. That's crazy. I know. But anyway, the vaults were accidentally probably the best piece of content Blizzard has given us. Because they give you the illusion of choice where you kind of want to go. It's pretty spacious. It feels good. And there's big rewards at the end. When vaults leave, whatever they replace vaults with is gonna be a shit show. Because it's probably gonna be again a crammed corridor that enters into a main hall that enters into 6 different, paths that half of them are dead ends because that's good game design, said no one ever. And it's gonna be a disaster. So, the best thing that Season 3 did, introduced vaults because that was actually playable dungeons. And by the way, traps that don't do anything to you, turns out, create a really good sense of illusion that you are actually doing something, achieving, and makes you think about something, which feels good. Who would have actually thought that would work out when traps deal no damage and are technically completely ignorable? I didn't. But when the vaults go away, it's over. It's so over. Because the Diablo dev team 100% see absolutely no problem with dungeons.
Look at this and think, okay, what is this giant spike up in terms of reception and goodwill by the players? Well, this is the potential. We are currently right here, ladies and gentlemen, in the timeline. This is where we are right now. And that is...
I can't wait for them to announce the item rework and it being literally Diablo 3.
because they have announced that the most requested change in all of Diablo 4 is about to be revealed. If you look here, it says tune into our next campfire chat, the public test realm revealed. This is March 20th at 11 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah, again, where everyone's 100% sure their vows and whatnot will be listened to. I'm sure the devs are gonna take your feedback into great consideration.
All of the major dudes from the campfire chats are going to be there in order to detail the massive itemization changes coming to Season 4. They will discuss affixes, item stats, the Codex of Power, and the new in-game systems that will change the way you slay and loot across both the Seasonal and Eternal realms. Itemization and in-game have easily been the...
By the way, has the Codex of Power lost all usefulness in your opinion? Yes. Because you need to understand, the Codex of Power was designed in the initial stages of Diablo where it was not that easy to find affixes. Now it's super easy to find affixes for everything that you want. So the Codex of Power is completely useless now. Which is a completely normal thing that Blizzard does constantly. They design something, people don't like it, then they design something that replaces the old system and makes it redundant, and then the people don't like the new system. And then guess what they do? They just design a new system that replaces the old system by accident, and the old system also now becomes redundant. It's a great circle.
Two most, I would say, controversial, but really everyone agrees. It's the most discussed point in the game at the moment. There's the meme of damage on Tuesdays because
I don't know about that. I think the most discussed part about Diablo 4 is when will Diablo 5 come out and save Diablo.
Affixes don't feel good to acquire. It's an ARPG in which the loot that you get never actually makes you excited. And because they were able to salvage this Season 3 after the very harsh feedback came in quickly all over the place, they have now decided...
What do you mean salvaged? By your graph, we're still kind of in the absolute shitter.
That what they're also going to be doing is putting these changes onto a public test round. They're going to discuss how to access our first public test round in Diablo 4 available to PC Battle.net users. This PTR allows you to get your first taste of the changes coming to Season 4. We'll listen closely to your feedback to make adjustments before the season arrives for all. They're basically doing this to avoid another Season 3 fiasco of...
Who's gonna give the feedback now, by the way? Who? The people who are still playing Diablo 4 and think it's a great game? I don't want their feedback to be taken into account. This is the double-edged sword of listening to feedback when your game is dead, okay? And, again... have no mistake. Diablo 4 is effectively dead. From all the people that it should have had still playing, no one is left almost, okay?
Horrible negativity coming out from the beginning because it was a pretty negative launch. In order to make the game better, they're just going to have us look at it, see if there's feedback that needs to be sent, etc. before the season even launches. Now, while the PTR is cool...
Hey, at least he's always positive. Bonuses.
I do believe
always
that it took them
hopeful.
quite a long time. I mean, the game's been out since June, and very quickly after that, people started to send the feedback about itemizations. It took them that long in order to get the itemization changes ready to present. So even with feedback sent, unless it's minor tweaks, I
don't think they're listening to feedback when they're changing items.
We're seeing an entire overhaul of this. So at this point, what we see is probably pretty close to what we're going to get.
I think we're gonna get Diablo 3. I think you know what they're gonna do. They're not gonna introduce sets, but they're gonna introduce literally whole item builds on singular items, because that's what the game has been become pretty much. So most classes have -1 item slot on the ring because you need a malignant heart ring. Okay, a lot of classes don't just function without that. Every class pretty much has like some kind of unique class item that they must have, otherwise their builds just don't work. So that's one more item slot minus on average. And, well, now that uber uniques are actually farmable, You know, it's like, what are you gonna do as a necromancer? Are you not gonna play the ring that casts corpse explosion automatically and the river of Black River or whatever it's called, that thing, Vicheko? Of course you're gonna play that. So that's minus more. That's minus on average like 3 to 4 item slots, and with that many item slots mandatory taken up by other items, well, it's kind of hard to make builds, isn't it? So we're either gonna get a Haradric cube because reasons, or which Diablo 4 devs have already done, is they put whole item builds. Literally, they put whole builds on singular items. And the best example of this is Sorceress. The fire meteor helmet thing. Maybe that's unique, but you know, who cares? Essentially, it's a literal fucking whole build on a single item. If you wanna play Meteor Source, that's the only thing that you get. And congratulations, it's a full build. Are you happy? I hope you are.
Get with some minor tweaks. Much how like when we saw season 3, they were able to make it feel more enjoyable just by upping the loot, changing the pearl quantity, etc. We didn't actually change the entire fundamentals of the...
Still don't know where I can even find where the pearls are. They're not in my inventory. They're not in... I don't know where to find them. I don't know where to see them. Do they even exist?
Vaults, they just made them feel more enjoyable. I'm assuming that the feedback sent about the itemization changes will follow some similar regard. Now you might say, okay, DM, but remember here, after the launch of Diablo 4, you said that there were 2 major issues. There was core fundamentals about itemization that was lacking, but there was a core in-game gameplay loop that was lacking, and the Uber Durio, while being fun, eventually got boring. So the best case scenario is not only do we see itemization changes, but we see some in-game addition or changes as well.
Yeah.
Now, for me personally, no matter how many D4 bad videos you may see that we all laugh at, I do actually believe there is a significant amount of people that want Diablo 4 to be good. I myself am that way, and I've said this many times that I hope the game is good.
I would like Diablo 4 to be good, but hey, I'm not gonna hold my breath hoping for a miracle, okay?
Because I have a YouTube channel that covers it. I also live stream the game as well. I'm not gonna play it when I don't like it, but I would hopefully like it in the future. So I myself have hopium, copium, whatever you want to call it, for the itemization changes that will be quite good. And I have a feeling that a large amount of people that watch this feel the same way. I don't think people are actually out there rooting for Diablo 4 to go to the ground so they can be like, yeah, it's now official.
Did he grow a mustache while talking in the video? Because I just noticed it. Nah, he had a mustache previously. Okay, I'm just blind. It is what it is.
As those people exist, I think for it to go to the ground so they can be like, yeah, it's now officially only has 52 players left or what have you.
He should shave the mustache, probably. Mustaches are dangerous.
I think the game legitimately has people who want to log in and play it that feel like they currently cannot in its state because they just do not enjoy it. So, because those people exist, I think Diablo 4...
But I have heard that you can tickle thine clitoris, or whatever it's called, with a mustache. Best joke I have done all year.
Or has one last chance if they show some really good changes to the feedback that have been sent basically since the launch of the game. They have a chance to bring some of those players back in at a minimum.
Actually, a mustache is pretty pointy. Wouldn't that just, you know, stab them essentially? I'm pretty sure mustaches aren't bad.
To try it, or at least to get into PTR and see what they think. And if those players give it 20, 30 minutes to try it, they might actually end up enjoying it if they execute it well. And if they enjoy it, they might stick around to see what Season 4 has to offer outside of just itemization changes. And if that goes well, those people might be interested in buying their expansion pack. And the only reason I say that...
By the way, I think I'm not buying the expansion pack at the moment. I don't think I am.
Is because the stance I have had on the expansion for Diablo 4 is one and the same. I'm not willing to give more money to a product that I feel the core fundamental product is flawed. I'm not going to buy a turbo kit for a car that has an engine that is already has problems with it. So they need to fix the core fundamentals of the game first. This has always been my opinion, and if they do so, they might bring enough goodwill back from the players to look into their expansion. So not only is it good for the...
If you live in Alaska in a small village, and there's like one prostitute in that village, and you buy her, does everyone just know that you bought her by default because there's no way to hide it? Huh. Questions.
Players, and in their best interest for them to actually have itemization and in-game changes to be good coming into this PTR, but it's also in Blizzard's best interest to...
Because it's like the town's whore, right? Everyone just knows. But does anyone even care at that point? Probably no, because... No, wait, but you still pay her. The town's whore is just someone who's easy. Yet then everyone knows. And they kind of almost look down, but at the same time they understand that no one gives a fuck. Huh. I'm so curious about the Alaskan life.
Fix the core fundamentals of the original game if they expect the consumer base to be willing to hand them even more money on a product that has problems. So honestly, I believe this campfire chat right here is the most important bit of Diablo information that we will be receiving since the launch of the game. I think this is more important than the BlizzCon announcements where they talk about the Gauntlet leaderboard. I think it's more important than the little art they're doing for the leaderboards, any of the other type of stuff. This is...
The art is so stupid. If anyone likes that, please don't. Because remember, the only criticism that matters for a person is the last criticism that they have received. So, if the Diablo 4 team last criticism is, oh, I like the art thing, then they're gonna pat themselves on the back and not try any longer because everything's good. The last criticism a person receives is the only criticism that matters. So, don't leave good feedback for shit things done. It's not gonna work out. It's like a child. If they do something bad and you say, oh, you did good, yeah, they're not gonna exactly do better next time.
Easily the biggest change or announcement since the launch of the game, because it's not only going to show what's coming to the game, but it's going to show if players can have hope in the game's development. If the itemization releases are very poor, people are just going to lose faith in...
Also, I could be wrong, but unironically, isn't the most requested change for Diablo 4 firing of the devs? I'm pretty sure that is unironically the most requested change to Diablo 4, to fire these devs.
Entirely and no longer even care about the game. But if people log in and look at it and think,
log in,
oh
boys.
wow, I'm actually surprised at what they were able to accomplish, maybe they're going to be able to salvage this game after all, then that would be quite important.
By the way, the reason why I'm not giving Diablo 4 any shots, why I'm always not hopeful about anything they do, is very simple. I think the complete base game is just garbage, okay? We have literally skills that cannot be used still in the game. Passives that are literally missing for, gameplay types. For example, Necromancers have... How many base things do they have? They have bone, they have blood, they have shadow, they have summons. And yet, there's nothing with corpses, even though corpses are a key feature of the Necromancer. You have a ring that detonates things, you have a corpse explosion, you have curses. Yet, corpses and curses don't even have a key thingamajiggy. What's it called? The last thing that you get to pick that kind of like cements that you're this kind of necromancer, right? So there's no that for corpses. There's no that for curses, and the one for summons just completely sucks. So that's kind of sus, don't you think? Again, the base game is just in a terrible state. We have so many things that are missing from actually making skills viable. The Rogue is my favorite example. You have multi-shot. Bruh, that multi-shot fires like 3 arrows. No one wants to use it to clear enemies. Why can't we have multi-shot that fires 10 arrows? And they pierce or some shit. That would be a real multi-shot. People would use that. But instead we have completely unusable skills. And there's a lot of them for each class. It is what it is. And again, if Diablo 4 devs can't even understand that the game is fundamentally broken on the most primal of levels like that you can't make a good game if the base game is, well, garbage, then how exactly are you going to make the game good? I don't think a single change is going to change anything that's really happening in a game. They need to stop adding new things, and they just first need to fix the things that are broken. They need to make every skill usable, every passive usable, everything usable and make sense. And then you can look to improve things forward. Not skip the fact that half of the game is unplayable currently on a general basis for each class, and try to make a game around these 3 things that are playable, maybe.
But in the worst case scenario, where these itemization changes are not good and people spend the time one more time to log in and feel like they got disappointed again, people are going to still feel bad about the purchase they spent. They're not going to want to buy the expansions or anything like that. They're not going to want to log in for Season 4. And we're going to have all of that information before Season 4 even arrives because of the public test round. So this campfire chat here and the public test round release whenever we actually get that.
Well, I kind of get it. This is the end. Well, anyway, that was our boy, DM Dark Microtransactions TV. Skittles. Anyway, this was Quizzer Said. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. And have a nice day. Bye-bye.